Hey y'all, welcome to GradMissions Office Hours. I'm Autumn.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lizanne.
Hello, I'm Logan. All right, I have been working on JD cycle trackers. We have
Welcome to the
lots of,
dark side.
yes, we
Welcome.
have lots of new JD clients. This has been a fun um, foray for me into JD. I've learned so much about different programs across the country, and also, frankly, the fact that it's like infinite law schools out there, which can't really be the same for med schools. So I've learned quite a bit. One thing that Lizanne and I were talking about was the concept of a stale GPA. And I'll be honest, I had not necessarily heard that term. And so I guess I wanted to talk a little bit today about what is a stale GPA? What happens if you have one? Is that something that you can overcome? So Autumn,
Yeah.
Lizanne, either of you, you have more experience than I do with that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the short answer for a stale GPA would be for a non-traditional student who has been out of school 10 years or more. So they have their undergraduate GPA, but it's from quite a while ago, before they started. Obviously, they've been working in a career for 10 years or more.
I would even in this day and age kick that down a little lower. Like I
Yeah, that's
think
true.
potentially like even 3 to 5 years out. I think if there's enough time to show in your resume or through post-bac or master's work, or just lived experience that your your work ethic has shifted, your approach to how you grind has shifted. Um, Anything that you can do to sort of show that that GPA is not representative of the law or med student that they're about to get is enough to warrant it being a stale GPA. And I mean, every time I think about stale GPA, I think about like that can of Pringles that was in the back of the pantry and you thought the lid was all the way on it, and then you open it and you're like, this is like chewing on a coaster. Like this is not good. It's lost its crisp. And so it has kind of a negative connotation in food and crackers, right? Especially no one wants a stale cracker. But in the GPA world, it's actually only a good thing. So if you have a stale GPA that is a 3.97, listen, 3.97 is going to 3.97 all day long. No one's
It,
going to discredit
yeah,
that.
it's not going to be questioned.
No. And a stale GPA is, however, beneficial to you if your GPA is below median, especially if it's really below median. Um, but you can't stop there. You can't just say, hey, I have a 2.7 from 2016. Um, Here I am. You have to tell them why things are different now and what has shifted in your life. And there are many ways to do that. What are some that we've seen that have been successful, Lizanne?
So, kind of what you were talking about before, if you've been out and working and showing that grind. And so, showing how you've really grown as a professional, getting really strong letters of recommendation from coworkers or supervisor, showing that you have shifted your perspective of your work and your work ethic has really grown. So, that is one way that you can really do that is really bolstering your resume, talking about your work experiences and your essays and how you've grown as a professional.
Mhm. I think that's so smart. We have a client this cycle, a med client who is one of our like magical folks, right? So she last cycle was completely unsuccessful. Did not get, I think she got one interview invite, but it was like very late in the cycle. Did not get any invites to join the class, no admission offers. And we did a complete rewrite. She did not retake the MCAT. She did not retake undergrad. Nothing changed with her stats. And she already has several interviews this cycle. And it's very early. So we're very excited for her. But one thing that we talked about was the fact that when you have a lower GPA, you still need to have a way to show academic progress, right? And so she had taken a class that she had done this last cycle. So in one of her early chemistry classes, she had not done well. I mean, for her, right? She got a B or something. And what she did is she went to that professor and she was like, "Can I work my way into being your graduate assistant? I want to learn this content. I want to go to med school. I want to do well on the MCAT. I don't feel like that's a great representation. And I think if I can learn this good enough to teach it, as like an SI instructor that I will be on my way." And this professor was like, "Yes, you should absolutely do this." And so she did. And she knocked that section of the MCAT out of the park. And instead of going into med school with like this like albatross around her neck that she's not good at chemistry, she just faced it head on. And I just thought that was,
So smart.
right? As like a junior
Yeah.
to have that, go get it.
Maturity. Yeah,
Yes, yes. That is a good way to sort of
Mhm.
outpace a still GPA.
Absolutely. When I talk too about graduate programs that, aren't going to med or law school, it really annoys me when people are like, oh, well, just go get your master's because then that will bump your GPA up. And then people waste 2 years getting a master's that they didn't really need or want. It does not bump up your GPA. They only look at your undergraduate GPA. And so that piece of advice really frustrates me because I think it wastes people's time and money. But you can use it if you do have a master's. Obviously, you're going to put it on your resume. You're going to show them that transcript. So that is a way to show that upward trajectory in your academic performance and your academic maturity.
Yeah, and it's also a great way to grab one of those master's professors and get a really glowing academic LOR. I think that's another way that you can buoy a lower stale GPA, a lower GPA or a stale GPA. So whether you're a splitter or you're a person who's been out for a little while, having that academic voice speak to the kind of student that you are now directly to a professor who's on the admissions committee, that's such an incredible thing to have because they really do read those LORs. I see every now and then floating around in the ether of Reddit. No one reads LORs, and I'm just here to tell you
They
that
absolutely do.
we absolutely read those.
Mhm.
Man, I feel like I'm already writing the hardship essay for that student you mentioned.
Oh
Autumn,
yeah,
the hardship secondary of like overcoming a personal challenge. Man, that essay really writes itself.
yeah.
That's such a good perspective to take, and also specifically to bring into med school. I'm sure law school as well, but you know, part of their clinical experience is getting direct feedback
Mm.
and having to accept that with a positive attitude and make the change, or fully commit yourself to understanding it more, rising above, moving on. I mean, what a great way to showcase that you're capable of you know growing and changing and enhancing your skills.
That's right.
Absolutely.
It's the
And your
ultimate
team,
yes, sorry. It's the ultimate yes chef moment, right? If you want to be
Yes.
there, it's like, listen, understood, gonna make those changes.
yeah. And it shows that you're teachable. That's a large part of the application process is showing that you are teachable. And if you cannot receive criticism or move forward from a mistake, and well, I like to go on that soapbox, but you have to show that you are able to move past it and receive that feedback and make positive steps in growth.
Yeah, you really do have to. And I think that I do want to go back to something you were talking about earlier, Lizanne, about the master's programs, right? Can be a little different from med school because there are specific bridge programs that if you do this specialized master's program, sometimes it's run directly from the medical school. If you do this master's program, you're guaranteed an interview or you're guaranteed a spot in their incoming med school class. By all means, that's a great. I know Rutgers has an incredible one. I have several clients who have done it and actually had opportunity to not just go to Rutgers, but had, other doors open for them as well after they did that bridge program. But there are definitely some more, I'll just call them predatory master's programs out there, bridge programs that don't guarantee any of that. And it's just a money suck. And you're right, it doesn't feed into your cumulative GPA or your BCPM GPA if it's a master's level course. Your time and money and energy is really better spent if you're applying to med school, going back and taking some more of those prereqs at the post-bac level because they will count towards your BCPM and toward your undergraduate cumulative GPA. With law school, it's a little bit different. LSAC, once you graduate and that degree is conferred, there is nothing you can do to that GPA other than get a completely new bachelor's degree. So unless you want to go back,
Again, yeah.
not,
Again, wasting time and money. We're not about doing that. Yeah.
you are, it's a better idea to just accept the fact that you're going to be a splitter, you're going to have a lower GPA, and go all in whole hog on the LSAT. That's the best use of your time. Don't you think, Lizanne?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Really putting the time and effort into a prep course, not just getting a book off eBay. Like it's time to really focus on making that, showing your study skills and your academic prowess in that score.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you're a splitter in the law world, are you would when you're looking at schools to apply to, are there certain schools that we know prioritize an LSAT score over a GPA? Are there certain schools that prioritize a GPA over an LSAT? Does everyone prioritize the LSAT? Is there any strategy or logic in that?
Yeah, there are. We've talked about this myth of holistic before when we had Ben on the podcast, right? Talking about, are there actually any holistic schools? To be honest with you, in a cycle like this, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for any law school because they're not going to have to. If you are, especially if you're a super splitter this cycle, you really have got to do like 168 plus kind of work on the LSAT to really have much leverage. There are certain schools, WashU is one in St. Louis, right? They have the opportunity for an applicant to blind the admissions committee to their LSAT or to their GPA. That is like the epitome of holistic. And I
Yeah.
have seen clients be admitted with scores significantly below their median. So they truly do redact it. Um, Typically, you get your admissions offer a little later in the cycle, but talk about a school that's actually putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to holistic review. WashU is one of those schools.
This has been so fascinating for me to just compare and contrast the JD and the MD space. You know, something that I actually have really enjoyed and, working in the JD space is that everything is very straightforward. Everything is disclosed, everything is pretty transparent, like these 509 education handouts that every school has. It's easily Googleable. You don't have to search around on their website to find. It is, I'm sure there's some type of stipulation that it has to be within so many clicks from the front page of your
Oh, yeah. It's a
website or
ABA
something.
rule. Yeah.
All very designed by lawyers, and that is hysterical because it makes it very like forthcoming upfront. And I guess what goes along with that is everything is very quantitative. There's not a whole lot of room for feelings and the gushy stuff in
Yeah.
the law space, but in the med space it seems like there's a whole lot of room for feelings and the gushy stuff.
But
Autumn,
like
do you feel like that's true?
oh my gosh, when I started working in the med school space after so many years that everything I knew about admissions was in the JD world. And I was like, what do you mean match data isn't regulated? What do you mean it's not like published everywhere in the same way? It's not, and I'm like, oh, well, you can go this side and you can hold your tongue just right. And if you squint a little bit, you can kind of see how they're the same. I just felt like, first of all, it made me very nervous to like trust any medical school because I was like, how do you like it seemed like they're playing very fast and loose with some of that data. So that was I felt like a rudderless ship when I first started, and I still don't feel like I have a complete I don't think it is there to be understood when it comes to actually comparing the output for medical schools. Like the fact that they don't publish their USMLE on their website, like their pass rates is bananas to me.
I
That's
never knew any of this. That is wild.
No,
Wild.
it's the Wild
Yeah.
West. But I feel like it's exactly the opposite. In law school, there's a lot more soft consideration, whereas in med school, like your rank score is your rank score is your rank score. And they use that AMCAS calculated GPA, the BCPM GPA. It's your latest MCAT, come hell or high water, you know? In the law school space, it's like, oh, you mean 10 years, or, not 10, 4 years ago, you took the LSAT and you did 10 points better than you did this time. Okay, we'll just take the top one.
Yeah, we'll take your best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in the med school space, like you have to really think about whether or not you want to retake that MCAT because if you do even 1 point worse, you get a cold that day and you're just
Oh
SOL.
man. Wow.
So it's weird that they're like sticklers for certain things, but it seems to be almost like a complete yin and yang.
If I'm wrong. And this might not be the best forum to ask this question, given what it is that we're in the business of. But I feel like in the med space, well-written essays can make up for some questionable data.
100%.
It seems like in the law space, though, that's not really the case. You have to have some pretty solid data, and then well-written essays will escalate your possibilities. Is
That's
that
the
the way
Yeah.
to look
It's
at
just,
it?
yeah, you're exactly right. It's the verbiage. The essays are not going to make up for anything. The thresholds are there. The supplemental information, the essay's personal statement can only boost your application. So yes, you're right. It's not, at least in my opinion, at least for law school, it's not going to make up for anything. So, you know, we have some students who are like, oh, I'm not going to retake the LSAT. I'm just going to get a different LOR. Like, no, retake the LSAT. The numbers really, really matter for law school admissions. Really, 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 really matter.
Here's the difference too. As someone who's worked on scholarship committees for both of these spaces, your LSAT and GPA get you admitted. Your essays get you money. So, somebody posted, one of the LSAT prep companies posted something like, your essays, not your essays don't matter, but sort of your essays don't matter, like it's all about LSATs. And I'm like, okay, for admissions, yes. But when it comes to scholarships, I am telling you, I have worked behind the scenes at enough law schools to know that the way you get your little file moved to that section of applications that go to the scholarship committee is to have a compelling story. We have to have something to spend to donors so they'll keep giving us money so we can give it to you, right? Like you have to write well. In the med school space, there is just not as much funding available. So those essays do a lot of legwork, first of all, to prep the interview committee, because your interviewers have such a giant sway in your final rank score. And when you've prepped them properly with really beautifully written essays, that is how you move the needle on your admission to med school. And there are scholarships available in the med school space, but not like there are in the law school space.
You and I saw the same social media
Yeah,
post.
we did. Yeah, we did. And I think the information was sound, right? Like he's saying like you're not going to be, these aren't the droids you're looking for about your LSAT GPA. You're going to get in under T14 law school because you wrote a pretty essay. Of course not. You have to have the LSAT or the GPA or both to
Yes.
get across that threshold. But your little booty will just be admitted with no money behind it if you haven't written a compelling story.
Okay. Okay, any other points before we turn off the lights?
I think sometimes the odds seem to be a little stacked against non-traditional students. I was talking with one of our current clients yesterday, and she was talking about how when she applied to law school a few years ago, um, unsuccessfully, she got termed as a non-traditional student, even though she was like 26 at the time. And she was really offended by that. She was like, I wasn't a non-traditional student. I had just, taken a couple of years extra. And I think that non-trad label can be sort of, it can make you feel less than. And I'm just here to tell you that you don't have to feel less than just because your GPA is stale and your LORs might not come from your professor who you had senior year of college, that your work ethic, your resume, your ability to write about yourself in a way that reflects that your frontal lobe is fully formed.
And your
And
employability.
yes,
Yeah.
and that you can reflect, you can take criticism, you've experienced the world a little bit is a superpower, right? So like lean into that and don't feel like your GPA disqualifies you because we have the receipts to back up that a stale GPA can be overcome. We have folks who are at law schools, top law schools, fully funded, who had south of a 2.2. Okay, so
Absolutely.
it can be done.
Yep. And I
Okay.
agree wholeheartedly about it is your superpower to be non-traditional because you have the skin in the game. You have chosen to leave a career and a salary and benefits to go on this career change. And that in itself just brings so much respect.
And you have different motivation. You may have
Absolutely.
little people at home who are depending on you.
Yep.
And when we say treat law school like a job, you know what that means. You're not
Yes.
going to treat law school like college because you can't.
No,
It doesn't work that way.
absolutely.
That's such a good point. As a former student affairs professional, I always loved working with the non-traditional, little bit older students because they just had a different perspective. The things that get them worked up are worth getting worked up over because they have something to compare it to, versus the smaller things that are going to come and go. So I think that's a great way to put it. It absolutely is a superpower.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and turn the lights off in the podcast loft, but our lights are always on in our socials. So give us a follow at GradMissions. We're going to link those in the show notes. Have a great week.
Bye,
Bye,
y'all.
everybody.